when our 18th Army was stationed in Tibet in 1952. 3,000 tons of rice were imported from neighboring India. This was an aid that was desperately needed. You all know that? The military's food supply is tight. Here it is. You have to plan every day how you're going to get through each meal. When this truckload of white rice rolls in, it's like a timely rain. Make the whole army rejoice. After setting the rice, the cooks can't wait to start cooking. Then who cares what side dishes to find? All I want is to eat my fill. The whole army thought they were free from hunger. Unexpectedly, a series of health abnormalities appeared. Some D-styles have symptoms of systemic edema. Some started to feel dizzy and vomit. And that gave a jolt in the back office. Commander Zhang Guohua is in a hurry now. An investigation was launched immediately. Finally, this investigation found that the problem really lies with this batch of Indian rice. A barracks full of laughter. Suddenly there was chaos. For a moment, healthy soldiers were few and far between. Commander Zhang Guohua's mood. You went from peak to trough? After all, soldiers are fearless on the battlefield. But if even basic food safety cannot be guaranteed. In response to this food safety crisis, Commander Zhang Guohua's reaction, and there are important lessons for follow-up. Reminded of the importance of food safety in the military. Make people more aware. The importance of logistical support. At that time, the 18th Army of our army was fully staffed. The army, including Commander Zhang Guohua, did not expect it. An ordinary batch of Indian rice. After a long time, it triggered a major crisis that swept the entire army. The arrival of these grains. It was originally a meal for the army. Brought great improvement. Feed the soldiers. It also restored the vitality of training troops. The camp was brimming with anger and hope for the first time. But the good times didn't last long. Within weeks, chaos had engulfed the 18th Army. The bodies of a large number of soldiers showed abnormalities. Not dizzy. It's swollen like a prisoner. This inexplicable swelling. Embarrassed from ordinary people's weight gain. Exceptionally obvious. After the commander Zhang Guohua received the report, hastily leave the team to check the criminal results in person. Good guy found out there were more than 20,000 soldiers. Abnormal. This is indeed a state of emergency. It wasn't in people's minds for a while. The scourge that caused it all, it was the Indian rice. Then Zhang Guohua discovered the problem in the camp. Start looking for the cause. Now, although these symptoms are not yet fatal, but if it is allowed to develop, it will definitely seriously affect the combat effectiveness of the troops. He must act quickly to avoid further deterioration of the bad situation. 1952. After the Chinese People's Liberation, Army used rice imported from India. Catastrophic health problems ensue. Diarrhea. Puffiness. Others experience dizziness and vomiting. At first. And everybody guessed that it was an adaptation problem, or altitude sickness. After all, there is such an abnormality in the entire army. The first thing that comes to mind is the environmental factors in which they coexist. But this speculation was soon refuted. Acclimatized? Or altitude sickness? It should have appeared as soon as the troops arrived there. It won't be long. And dizzy. Vomiting could be a symptom of altitude sickness. Edema and diarrhea obviously no longer crack. The final gaze of the 18th Army on the batch of rice I have been eating. That's the only thing they have in common. It's a very recent change. If not for the severe food shortage. Leaving Commander Zhang Guohua cornered, the 18th Army would not choose this risk. Hire Indian rice. Due to the multiple pressures at that time, it was the last resort. The crisis shook the entire army. Make people deeply aware of the importance of military food security. The Tibet issue has become a stumbling block for national stability. Stone attracted the attention of the leadership at that time. The history of great men and Mr. Peng is thin. Even the solution of the Tibet issue cannot be delayed. Opportunity. The great men wanted Mr. He to take on this important task. But since the 62nd Army was located in the northwest, it is inconvenient to adjust the deployment. At that time, the troops of the southwest military region had a heavy task. From Sichuan to Guangxi, there are big things that need to be dealt with everywhere. Therefore, the 18th Army became a difficult task to execute, chosen for the giant quest. To ensure that the 18th Army is up to the task, the leadership has given them tremendous support. 30 high-altitude transport aircraft were prepared, and over 1,000 mules. To ensure their logistical supply, the great man and Mr. Peng know the challenges posed by the geography of Tibet, so be as prepared as possible. The 18th Army in Tibet. It didn't go as well as expected. They soon discovered there's not enough food. Helicopter transportation is an option, but that expensive cost makes this plan unrealistic. At first, the 18th Army could only reluctantly rely on the achievements of more than 10,000 battles. Surviving this embarrassment, Commander Zhang Guohua is not idle. Immediately report to your superiors and seek assistance. Supplying food from the northwest is costly. $2 per caddy of rice. That was a huge price in those days. And the amount of food required is astronomical. The freight alone will cost tens of millions. In trouble. India came out of nowhere, offered to do this business. Claims it costs just over $1 per caddy of rice. For the 18th Army in difficulty, offers another possibility, 1952. Our People's Liberation Army? After eating rice from India, they showed up en masse. Strange symptoms of body swelling. Some are also accompanied by dizziness and vomiting. It's killing the logistics department. They thought to themselves, this rice can't be poisonous. The Indian side earlier said to buy us rice, mainly for stimulate their domestic economic development. This rice later caused our army to be trapped for a while. Great trouble. Everyone was happy. I thought I had found the classic word to solve the food problem. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. At that time, Zhang Guohua, the commander of the 18th Army, and the logistics. The department didn't think things too complicated at first. After all, who would have thought? Eating rice can get into such a big trouble. Wait until the story is reversed. Soldiers, I just found out the reason seriously. So it's not toxicity, but because of the lack of vitamin B2 in rice. This is the culprit that causes puffiness. Fast and flexible response. Zhang Guohua found the only way to get rid of the problem. Diameter. No one in a company showed those reactions, because they tend to economize on food. Always mix rice with a hairpin. These three are the specialty foods of Tibet, using highland barley as raw material. He happens to be able to take vitamin supplements. So Zhang Guohua ordered to study that company overnight. Mix all the rice in 3 handfuls together for the main course. This can solve the problem of vitamin B2 deficiency. It allows the soldiers to continue to maintain good physical strength. The great man was very sad to learn. Immediately decide to allocate a special budget. Let the 18th Army buy domestic rice. It's safer, it's more reassuring. After all, only domestic products can taste better. More secure in the camp of the 18th Army in 1952. A batch of fresher rice arrived. It's not India as it used to be. Goods are good grain produced in the south of our country. As soon as this guy got to camp, that friendly taste, it made many soldiers smile after a long time. I can't help but sigh. The team led by Zhang Guohua is not afraid of difficulties. Many heavy responsibilities on one shoulder. 17 summers and winters on the snowy plateau. Not only has it smashed the endless conspiracy of gangsters, it also ensures the great rivers and mountains of this generation. Harmonious development. Live and work in peace and contentment. The deeds of the 18th Army. We should remember it well.